The forest didn't just look dark, it seemed to consume the light. Even the moon, pale and watchful above the clouds, could not pierce the dense canopy of twisted branches that loomed over SEAL Team Viper as they crossed the threshold into what locals called the Dark Forest. It wasn't an official name, not one that appeared on any tactical maps, but it was the name whispered by the few villagers who lived nearby and avoided it. Lieutenant Kane raised a fist, and the team halted instantly, boots sinking slightly into the damp soil. The silence didn't feel natural. Usually a forest at night breathed, crickets, rustling leaves, the distant hoot of an owl, but here nothing, only the sound of their own breaths, too loud in their ears. "Comms check," Kane murmured, hardly above a breath. Static crackled in their headsets, sharp, jagged, erratic. Alpha 3 copy break. Then the line dropped entirely. The icon on their HUD blinked red, connection severed. Corporal Jenkins tapped the side of his helmet. "It's like we just fell off the planet," he whispered. Kane scanned the tree line. "Stay sharp. We keep moving until I say otherwise." The temperature dipped as they advanced, each meter dragging them deeper into an unnatural chill. Even with their gear, the cold gnawed through the fabric, brushing icy fingers along their spines. Fog wound around their legs like something alive, curling and unfurling as though reacting to their presence. The first sign trouble was coming. The ground trembled, just a twitch at first, enough for Kane to stop mid-step. Hold. Too late. A metallic click sounded beneath Sergeant Hale's boot. His eyes widened. Trap. The explosion tore through the silence. An eruption of dirt, steel shards, and splintered wood. Hale was thrown backward, crashing into a tree trunk. 2 others were knocked off their feet, hitting the forest floor hard. Kane hit the ground, instinct tightening every muscle in his body. "Status." Kane hissed. Hale groaned. Vest caught most of it. "I'm good. Define good." Jenkins muttered, helping him up. Hale brushed off debris and forced a breath. Not dead. It wasn't comforting. Kane surveyed the blast radius. This wasn't improvised. It was precise, professionally laid, and timed for a footstep. They weren't dealing with amateurs. "Someone knew our route," Kane whispered. The words hung like frost in the air. Before they could regroup, another trap detonated ahead, a chain reaction of sparks and dirt erupting like miniature volcanoes. Something was waiting for them out there, and it was hurting them deeper. Miles away, Sergeant Mira Holt noticed the exact second Viper vanished from her tactical screen. The digital map stuttered, then flatlined into a blank space, as though the forest had erased them. Mira, codename Nightglass, leaned in closer, eyebrows tightening. Most snipers read wind speed, bullet drop, or distance like second nature. Mira read environments, movement signatures, shadows. She could tell when a terrain was wrong, simply by the pattern of silence between data points. This silence screamed. She tapped a command, requesting live sat. Feed denied. The operator replied, "The forest canopy is blocking thermal and visual, no visibility. A place that swallowed light and signals." Perfect for trapping a SEAL team. Command stepped beside her. "Backup is assembling. Eat a 40 minutes. 40 minutes. Amira turned, her voice steady but sharp. "Kane and his team won't last 10. Whoever set that up knows how to isolate and kill. You're suggesting I'm going in." She grabbed her gear bag, already on the move. "You can't go alone." The commander called after her. Mira didn't stop. "I'm not asking permission." She strapped on her visor, slung her custom sniper rifle across her back, and started running. The forest loomed ahead like a creature with its mouth open. The temperature dropped almost immediately as she stepped inside. She exhaled once, seeing her breath plume in the air. A faint metallic cling echoed somewhere ahead. A trap. She crouched low, spotting the nearly invisible tripwire stretched across the ground, cleverly placed, but not clever enough. She clipped it without noise, easing past. "They think this forest hides them," she whispered. A breeze stirred the leaves, almost in reply. "I'm going to prove them wrong." She vanished into the dark, moving silently, every sense awake. Somewhere ahead, Viper was waiting, hurt, outnumbered, and hunted. And she was the only one coming for them. Mira moved like a shadow that knew the forest better than the creatures that lived in it, if any lived in it at all. Every step was deliberate, every breath measured. The deeper she went, the more the world around her twisted into something predatory. Branches curved unnaturally, bark peeling in jagged strips like exposed bone. The air thickened, heavy with moisture and the faint smell of metal. Rust, gun oil, blood. She couldn't tell. All she knew was that she was close. She knelt near an overturned log, fingers trailing through the soil, a faint boot print, pressure on the heel, slightly widened at the edges, seal standard formation. But the depth told her something else. They were moving carefully, then suddenly fast, running. She scanned the surrounding area, chased. She whispered. She stood and continued forward, eyes flicking constantly from the ground to the tree line. Mira wasn't just scanning. She was listening to the pattern of silence, the rhythm of empty space. The forest spoke to those who paid attention, and something here was desperately trying to hide its tracks. Then she saw it, a fragment of reflective film dangling from a branch, thin, silver, almost invisible unless you caught the light perfectly. She angled her visor upward, more strips, hundreds of them. To a regular soldier, the illusion would be disorienting, throwing back false flashes of motion and light. A sophisticated psychological trap meant to confuse, distract, and divide. But to Mira, it was a breadcrumb trail. "You're clever," she murmured, tracing one fingertip along the film. "But you don't know me." A soft rustling sounded behind her. She froze. The rustle stopped too. Mira slid silently behind a tree, fingertips finding the release on her rifle case. She eased the weapon out piece by piece. The forest held its breath. Not a bird, not a leaf dared move. Then she heard it. A whisper, not English, sharp, clipped vowels. 3 voices, low and tense, moving in a triangular pattern. The hunters, they thought she was alone. Technically, they were right, but they didn't understand what that meant. Mira snapped her rifle together in 12 seconds, sliding the suppressor into place. She didn't need to see them clearly. The forest carried sound differently here. The exact distance, direction, and body weight. The first silhouette appeared between 2 twisted trunks, tall, focused. Weapon ready, he took 1 step. Her finger tightened. PFFT, the silenced shot cut cleanly through the air. The silhouette dropped like a puppet with its strings cut. The other 2 panicked, their discipline cracking as they fired wildly into the dark. Bullets snapped past her, one slapping bark from the side of her tree. Mira was already moving, low, fluid, almost gliding across the forest floor. She slipped behind a boulder as the second hostile advanced cautiously, broadcasting confidence he didn't possess. He should have checked his side. She rose and fired once. He fell to his knees, then forward. The third man ran. Mira didn't chase. She simply calculated the angle. 30 degrees left, wind cutting from the right, distance decreasing as he sprinted. She inhaled deeply and squeezed the trigger. He collapsed before he ever understood what hunted him. She didn't celebrate. She didn't even pause. Mira just checked her surroundings once more before heading deeper. Minutes later, she found Viper. They were huddled inside what had once been a shallow ravine, now partially collapsed from an explosion. 2 men were bleeding, one from shrapnel along the ribs, the other with a gash across his thigh. The rest were bruised, shaken, and exhausted, their eyes haunted. Lieutenant Kane looked up as if seeing a miracle. "Holt," his voice cracked. "You came alone." She shrugged off her pack, pulling out medical kits. "You're sitting in a kill box. I didn't have time to bring a parade." Jenkins let out a shaky laugh that turned into a grimace. "Never thought I'd be happy to see the crazy sniper. Bandage that," she ordered, tossing him a pack. "And I'm not crazy. I'm efficient." Kane approached, lowering his voice. "Holt, whoever's out there, they're trained. They move like special ops. I know." She met his eyes, and they're closing in. As if on cue, a distant thud shook the ground. Then another. Heavy steps, purposeful, organized. "They aren't after you anymore," she continued calmly. "They've realized the threat is me." "Good," Kane said, gripping his rifle. "We'll cover you." But Mira shook her head. "No, you're hurt. You're tired. You'll do exactly one thing. Follow my lead." Her voice was steady, cold, unshakable. Kane hesitated only a second. Then he nodded. Mira turned toward the shifting darkness, her silhouette sharp and unyielding. "Stay low," she said. "Stay quiet." She chambered around, "And if I say run, run." The hunters were coming. Mira was ready. The moment Mira led Viper out of the ravine, she felt the forest tighten around them, like a throat closing. They moved quickly but quietly, weaving through the narrow, twisting paths carved between ancient roots and jagged stones. Every step forward felt earned. Every breath felt borrowed. The deeper they pushed, the more hostile the terrain became. She recognized it immediately: the placement of the traps, the funneling of paths, the thinning of ground cover. Someone had engineered this forest into a killing corridor. It wasn't random. It was intelligent, methodical, and intentional. "Eyes up," Mira whispered. "We're approaching a choke point." Kane leaned closer. "You sure?" She shot him a look. "I'm never not sure." Ahead, the path narrowed into a steep bank with a single log bridge crossing a trench. A perfect spot to eliminate a team in one explosive swipe. She crouched low, scanning the underside, and there it was, tiny, barely noticeable, but unmistakably lethal. "Claymore," she murmured. Jenkins swore under his breath. With steady hands and surgeon, like precision, Mira disabled the trigger wire, disarmed the charge, and slid the mine into her pack. A souvenir. One of the SEALs whispered. "Insurance," she replied. "Let's go." They moved on, but the air was shifting, a pressure change, a faint hum, the unmistakable tension of combat closing in from multiple sides. Mira signaled the team to drop. A red flare burst overhead, violent, sudden, painting the forest blood red. She looked up sharply. Ambush. Before the flare even finished its arc, shapes materialized between the shadows. 6 hostile operatives spreading wide, forming a crescent formation that would pin Viper against the trench. "Positions," Kane ordered, but Mira was already moving. She sprinted left, breaking formation entirely. Kane tried to call her back, but she ignored him. She needed higher ground, a vantage point, a place where her rifle could dominate the field. The nearest rock shelf was steep, uneven, slick with moss. But that didn't matter. Mira climbed with the speed and precision of someone who'd scaled far worse under heavy fire. She slid onto her stomach just as bullets tore into the trees below. Kane and the others returned fire, but the angles were against them. The hostiles fired from cover, tightening their formation, pushing Viper backward exactly where the traps were waiting, not on her watch. Mira steadied her breathing, in through the nose, out through the teeth. She took the first shot. The round punched through the visor of an enemy crouched beside a twisted oak. He dropped before his partner realized what happened. The formation jerked in surprise. 2 operatives turned their rifles toward the high ground. Mira fired again. A second body slumped into the moss. The forest lit up with muzzle flashes, sparks scattering as rounds slammed into her rocky nest. Her heart remained steady. Her hands didn't shake. She swept left, 3rd shot, 4th, 5th, 5 hostiles down. 1 remained, the largest among them, moving with aggressive confidence, ducking and weaving with a professional's instinct. He was good, very good. Mira narrowed her eyes. He looked up, and he spotted her muzzle flash. He charged. Mira rolled onto her back just as the first round struck the rock where her head had been. She slid down the incline, boots scraping, rifle tight against her body. The enemy leapt onto the ledge, his suppressed weapon trained on her. He fired. She twisted. Bark splintered inches from her ribs. He lunged, tackling her hard. They hit the ground in a jarring collision. Pain radiated up her spine, but Mira didn't hesitate. She slammed her elbow into his throat. He gagged. She stripped the rifle from his grip, swung it, and cracked him across the jaw. The fight was brutal, fast, instinctive. He grabbed her wrist. She drove her knee into his ribs. He reached for a knife. She twisted, flipping him onto his stomach, pressing her forearm to the base of his neck. "Don't," she warned. He went still. She didn't check if he was unconscious. She just stood, breathing hard but controlled, and grabbed her rifle. Below, Viper was pushing forward, firing through the thinning resistance. Mira dropped down the hillside and sprinted toward them. "Move," she shouted. Kane glanced at her. "You good? Don't waste oxygen. Go." The forest began thinning. Dawn light flickered between the branches, pale gold breaking the oppressive darkness, and then they heard it, the distant roar of helicopter rotors slicing through the morning air. Extraction. Jenkins waved the flare they'd been saving. The helicopter angled toward them, cutting through the fog with blazing spotlights. The remaining hostiles tried one last push, but Mira turned, fired 2 precise shots, and forced them into retreat. Viper boarded first, dragging their wounded. Mira stepped in last, rifle across her knees. One of the SEALs stared at her. "You saved an entire team in the dark." Mira wiped sweat and dirt from her face. "I didn't come to save you." They blinked. "I came to end the people hunting you." The forest shrank beneath them as the helicopter lifted, swallowed once more by its own darkness, and Mira Holt, Nightglass, sat silently, already calculating the next threat.